Schnautra aure Mazda Hashem vahu vahishtem asti ushtaste Ushtahamai Atashai vahishtai Hashem Baname Ahura Mazda. To think a good thought, to speak a good word, to do a good deed is righteousness. Happiness comes to those who live with the consciousness of righteousness. And with that sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, this is Meher Amal Saad and welcome to Bahumata, a program designed to build oneness with the consciousness of righteousness in humanity. The goal is not to grow the plant but to plant the seed for each one of us to blossom with our own love, light, grace, joy and peace. So sit back, relax, and get ready for this very special journey to enlightenment. And as you do, please join me in giving a warm Zartushti welcome to our very own Zartushti neuroscientist from United Kingdom, Dr. Karishma Koka.
Thank you very much, Baba Meher. Hamazor bin, Hamasho bin. Thank you very much for everybody joining us today around the world. Hamazor, Hamashobad to all of you. Bahumata is a program designed to spread the joy of Asho Zarathustra's message. And in this message, we have something special for each one of us. Today's speakers will share with us the importance and the significance of the fire and the different fires in us and in our Aatash Behrams and our Agyaris. The four goals of Bahumata are focused on the words of Asho Zarathustra, as he says, Yanim Mano, Yanim Vacho, Yanim Shotnim, Asho no Zarathustra he. And we aim to conserve and share this knowledge that the thoughts, words, and deeds of Asho Zarathustra bring prosperity, the prayers, the principles, and the practice, and to honor the priests and our knowledgeable elders who bring this understanding to us, and then bridge the communication between the elders and the youth to bring empowerment with knowledge and leadership for the good of all, so that we can grow fellowship, world peace, happiness, and prosperity for all. My deepest gratitude to my grandfather, Ervad Pestanji Noshirvanji Pestanji Pantaki, and his father, Pestanji Noshirvanji Pantaki, the late Pantaki of the Sir J.J. Agyari Pune. My guiding light, Moobed Meherban Firuz Gari. Our guiding friend, Moobed Soli P. Dastur. My mentor and facilitator of Bahumata, Mr. Meher Amal Saad. Mr. Noshir Dadrawala for support, and Mr. Yazdi Tatra for support and technology. To Mr. Rohinton Munshi for inspiration, and all at the ZTFE for providing me the environment in which to enjoy the prayers with the beauty of the prayers, and then develop this idea, including Mr. Debu, Dalal, Moobed's Bhada, Madan, Unwala, writer, Bedwar, Majivdar, Mr. Potel, and Mr. and Mrs. Firoz Munshi, and all the Ashavans, including my parents around the world who make this possible for us. Our thoughts are focused on the Humata, Hukta, and Huvrashta for these talks that we have. So our speakers will focus on a concept, give us a little bit of the meaning, and then focus on the interpretation to give us inspiration. I will now introduce our first speaker, to please first do a short prayer, Moobed Sahib Ardeshir Behi, and then give us our talk. So before the speech, please maybe have a short Hambandagi, Moobed Sahib. Thank you. And then I'll do the introduction to you and then your talk.
Good days, ladies and gentlemen. As we all know, we Zartushti are very well known for very two prayers, Hashem Vohum and Yetahus. These are all around the Avesta. That's why they call him Faramun Yasht. So, and that is very important that we do it together. So I really appreciate if you join me for three Hashem Vohus. We have to recite it together. So I'm the very first assumption is all of us know Hashem Vohus. So please recite it with me. That's the most important part of it. So I start with the name of the God and three Hashem Vohus. Shall we start? بنام ارمزد بخشاینده بخشایشگر مهربان شنوترا هوره مزدا هشم وهو و اشتمستی اشتاوستی اشتاوهمای هیاد شای و هشتاوی هشم هشم وهو و اشتمستی اشتاوستی اشتاوهمای هیاد شای و هشتاوی هشم هشم وهو و اشتمستی اشتاوستی اشتاوهمای هیاد شای و هشتاوی هشم. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moobed Behi. Ladies and gentlemen, the Zartushti scholar and educator I'm about to introduce has a passion for disseminating knowledge and shared experiences through the spirit of learning and social connectivity. He's a prominent seminar leader for the Zoroastrian Society of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. Prior to the initiation as a Moobed in 2010, Dr. Ardeshir Behi completed his postgraduate studies in biotechnology, software systems, and biomaterials in Iran, Canada, and the United Kingdom. His experience in scientific research and his PhD degree helped him to expertly and meticulously take notes and sound recordings to be filed and reused for learning and studying the Dine Behi, the best religion. True to Zoroastrian scriptures, he faithfully propagated his acquired knowledge to the masses, especially to our youth, through services to the Anjuman-e Moobedan, the Fravahar organization, and other youth community organizations in Iran. And amazingly enough, that this selfless effort to benefit others has not ceased as a result of his migration to Canada. Rather, we consistently hear about his continued good work, such as organizing and chairing in the year 3750, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, an international conference of scholars on Zoroastrianism in Vancouver, Canada. Recently, reflecting on the desire of our youth to learn more about our prayers, Dr. Moobed Behi published a book, Zarathushti's Prayers. In this short book, there are some gems of religious knowledge that he has amassed while undertaking religious studies towards his initiation as a Moobed. Ardeshir Behi Sahib's knowledge is not merely limited to the ability of just reciting the prayers, although the Matravani itself, we appreciate, is very important. He has a strong desire to become a learned man of religion, and he firmly believes that his most important duty as a Zartushti is to pass on the powerful knowledge of our Zartushti faith to the next generation in brief, concise, and simple words. He also believes that the world is transitioning into a new paradigm of living based on a new model of spiritual consciousness. And with that spirited sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming with a warm Zartushti welcome our very own scientist, educator, scholar, and Moobed of international repute, Moobed Ardeshir Behi, representing both Iran, our motherland, and Canada. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karishma John. Thank you very much, Mayor John, for your invitation. And I really want to thank everybody, audience. Thank you very much for your time and attending this webinar. I know how much time and effort you put towards this, which I really appreciate that. I was told that I have a very limited time, so I have to be precise on timing and speak. There is lots of things I need to cover. So I just touch the topics and then move on, and then we have some time to talk more in detail. Before I start, I just want to ask every one of you, have been in a situation that you call like fire worshiper or name on that? So if you share your experience with us, so in the chat box, I really appreciate that. So we can talk more on this. But I myself, grown up in Iran, as Karishma John mentioned. I spent most of my time in Iran, and it was always the case, I defending my religion. And I was thinking, like, I believe in this discrimination happens. Then I move out, and then I was in the contact with one of my friends from Far East. And suddenly we speak about the language and about the religion. And then she mentioned that, oh yeah, she didn't know about the Zartushtis, first of all, but then she recalled that by her textbook that these are fire worshippers. And I was thinking, like, something is wrong here. I know all the religions, the nations, Greeks, Romans, all the tribes, religions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, all respect fire. But why Zoroastrianism or Zartushtis is called this fire worshippers? Or so people start saying and telling, oh, this is because of your obvious facing fire, which we know it's not. And then I talk more on this one, and then your text. And I was saying, really? So I starting more learn about our religion. So this first slide actually showing the principles or basics of our religion. And as you see, there is one item which I highlighted on the very last. It's all respect about 4 elements. So 4 Akhshij. And you see fire is one of them. So that's the most important thing. But before I move on, I would like to move to the second slide. So a little bit of this Akhshij. So you see, all of you, I'm pretty sure all of you know that it's fire, water, soil, and air. But for my youth, my new generation, my friends coming, look at this more carefully. Water representing all liquids, soil representing all the solids, and air representing all the gases. So 3 different forms of matter or materials. And next to it, we have energy, fire. So this is the rule. The first, I mean, the Physics 101, and then first law of thermodynamics, the all is universe. So the amount of in the universe is equal, and then they're converting to each other. So that's the beauty of our religion. In a very simple word, that's the meaning that we have. So I'm going to touch more on this one, then go back to the text that people saying our text talking about this fires. So the main text we have to look into it. It's Yasna 17 from session 1 to 10. And in that one, you will see that talks about the fire, water, planet, and everything. It's not just the fire. But among those, you find about the 5 different fires. I'm going to touch more on this one. So what are these fires later on? But one thing I notice here, when you go through the text, one interesting thing is the text that we all familiar with, Nemasata Aatash, Puthra Ahura Mazda. And then look at the translation, some English translations. It says, we worship thee, the fire, O Ahura Mazda's son. And I would say, worship, okay. But then, actually, if you look at the other texts, different translations. So for example, I look at the translation from Master Purdabut, and he used durud or salute or salutation in English translation when you look at it. And I say, so this is difference between worship and salute. Then it's interesting also which one is right or wrong. So sometimes you see like our friends, our Indian friends, when they want to greet each other, they say namaste or namasata. So you see this is a similarity. So that's hello or greetings or salutation is probably a very better word because selection. So you see some of the translators from the West purposely or unpurposely, maybe they don't know, I don't know, they use this word of worship, and that makes a big confusion. And then it comes the Puthra. So so that Puthra, which we translated to the son, is a figurative word. So most of the religion, Christianity, use Puthra means pesar, is a production, and so it's totally sense. Although there are some translators that think that Puthra comes from a Sanskrit word pu, means purity and redundant of purity. So you see, this translation is very important. So, and then we have to be very careful on this one and encourage our scholars to start look our texts more carefully and help us here. So let's go back again, this slide, which is going back to Yasna 17. So these are different, the next one. Yeah, you're right. So different five different kind of fires. So after, no, before that. Yes. So in this Yasna, actually it names 5 different fires. Actually, if you look, and these are fires, if you want to classify it, it's a physical or metaphysical fires, and the fires for physical one, which existed in plants, existed in all animals, this fire on earth, fire in skies, and fire in metaphysical things. So actually, you see all of this, my youth friends, these are just source of energies. So photochemical energy, electrochemical energy, electricity, heat. So as you see, this is different forms of energy, actually. So that's the most important thing I want to mention here for ourselves. And then it comes one of them, which is we call it Aatash Bahram, and which is very important fire for us. And there is a reason behind it. This fire is not just any fire. Moobeds, around like 33 moobeds all around the year, get 16 different fires from every different occupations and peoples, groups of people, and then purify them, recite them Avesta, the whole Avesta, then they put them together. Actually, this is a representative of our community. It's a flag. It's a kind of representing us. So I also ask to talk a little bit about our fire, the fire in our motherland, Iran. So, so talking about this Aatash Bahram, so let's go back to our motherland, Iran. So the next, yes, so this one shows where Iran located for those of our friends and youth, they don't know. So anywhere in the world where you are, that circle is Iran, and this is the motherland. But actually this wasn't that small. So next slide shows how big Iran was in old Sasanian time. So you see in this image 3 circles, 3 big circles. So these are showing the 3 main Atash Bahram in Iran, and I'm going to talk about it. But before that, just before I forget this one, there are two small circles, one around Isfahan and the other one around Kerman. So please remember these two cities, and I get back to you on this one. But before that one, so these three main or big circles, these are representing the Atash Bahram. So in Sasanian time, so this big emperor or Shahanshahi, which is I prefer to use instead of emperor. So they have only three fire, Atash Bahram. So you see how important it was. And then if you go by image, so you can see, so these are the ruins left. So from all these three left. So one of them is people, like as you see, like one important thing is these fires or Atash Bahrams representing different people, although there was different group of Aryans moving to Iran. So Parthians, Medicis, and Parsis. So as you see all these three, and then the next one, which is the Atash Pars or Kavian. So next image, please. Yeah, so these are the three main ones. And actually it was very interesting. So you see this representing somehow in the flag of Iran. So as you know, the Iranian is a agricultural community, those green representing that agricultural thing. And at the bottom, the blood of the soldiers who protecting the country, and then the white of those intellectual elites group of people to connecting all this and make this country a great country. So I can talk lots about this one. There are lots of facts and things, but let's go back to the Atash Bahrams in Iran nowadays. So you see this, I take this image from the Google. So you see that red bottom is Yazd, and then go back to the Isfahan. So again, back to those small circles. If you may recall from the previous slide, I show you the Isfahan and Kerman, and you see where the Yazd now located. So we go to the next one. And then this is a bigger picture of Yazd. As you see, nowadays, even when you Google our Atash Bahram stands up as Zartushti temples next to the Islamic mosque. So you see how important is that. So the next slide, please. So I just show you the image of that. Yes. So this is Atash Bahram in Yazd. And actually this one has a very interesting history on which I really want to point it out. So they believe the fire which is existed here goes back to King Pishdadi, Jamshid Pishdadi's. So in a long time ago, he moved this one to the mountains of Farhman. Then King Goshtaz came in and moved it to Kabulistan in month of Nur or Roshan. Then Sasanian king moved that fire to Pars area, and that was that image, the third image I show you, the Karyan Pars, that big fires. Then what's happened? Then Arab attacks Iran, and what Zartushti did or priests did, the Moobeds, they took out these fires and they want to save it. This is so before this image. So yeah. So then they take the part of these fire. The part of this went to Fasad, Neiris, and then it's moved to India to Sanjan. So that's sort of at one of the Atash Bahram. The other one actually moved from to Agda in Yazd. They kept it for 700 years there. And then after that one, it moved to Ardakan. It's a very in a village called Turkabad in 1174. They kept it for 300 years over there, and they move it in Yazd in the Mahalla. It's called Ali Khan Abad, that's that village on that part. And then they keep it. And then it comes to the time that I really want to acknowledge this. Our Parsi friends, Manouchehr, Limji, Hataria, which we all Iranians, we owe him and our Zartushti friends in India, our life actually. They came in, they support us, and they let us to survive in that situation. So they come and they put that like structure together, help us to rebuild the Atashkade. So that was the Atashegi Rahram Yazd. So if you please move back 2 slides, please. Yeah, so this is the image of that. And then after that time, we moved, like most of the Zartushti, with the encouragement of our Parsi friends, we start moving from Yazd to Tehran. So next image show our Atash Kadeh in Tehran, which this fire is always lighting up from the Yazd Atash Kadeh. So it's easily can say this fire existed for thousands and thousands of years. So that's the main holiness about this. This is a flag of our culture, which every single enemy tried to put it off. And that's we keep it to this day. We sacrifice life to keep it and exist it. So I want to finish my talk with the very well-known poet. The next slide, Fardowsi, very nice said. He says, "Naguid ke Atash parastan budand, parastande pa ke Yazdan budand." So if you just want to translate it, this means do not say they are fire worshippers. Actually, they are worshipping the pure divinity. Just look at how the word he uses, pure divinity. He got it right. And thank you very much for your time and listening to me. Hopefully I wouldn't exceed it too much of your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your explanation, Moobed Behi. There are many words of gratitude coming in. Thank you very much. Now we move to a MoobedYaar who has dedicated many years of her work to the community around the world. And at this point, I would like to first thank Meher Amalsad for putting all the speakers together, writing the biographies, and also arranging for us to have a full translation by Dr. Manouchehr Hakhamaneshi. So I'll give you the introductions to both MoobedYaar Dr. Rashin Jahangiri and Dr. Manouchehr Hakhamaneshi, and then we'll have the presentations. So it's my distinctive honor today to introduce this eminent speaker from Iran with an amazing and absolutely prestigious credentials to serving our community as well as humanity. MoobedYaar is a medical doctor who specializes in low-level laser therapy, Canadian maple instrument skincare, and platelet-rich plasma. Recently, she ranked first in Iran's national PhD admissions exam in the subject of ancient Iran's literature, for which she truly deserves a hearty communal round of applause. MoobedYaar Dr. Rashin Jahangiri was certified as a MoobedYaar by the Council of Iranian Moobeds in 2012, under the esteemed guidance of our respected and honorable head priest of Iran, Moobed Meherban Firuzgari. She has also been certified by the Council of Iranian Moobeds to serve as the official teacher for our Zoroastrian community in Iran, as well as to teach higher level refresher courses to expand the knowledge of the registered Zoroastrian religion teachers. She also serves as the qualified instructor in teaching several levels of Avasta and Dine Dabire at various teaching institutions for Zoroastrians in Iran. MoobedYaar Dr. Rashin Jahangiri has served as a board member and as the chair of the Zoroastrian Youth and Career for the Tehran Council of Zoroastrians and as a religion liaison in the board of directors of the Council of Zoroastrian College Students, which is involved in performing extensive social activities pertaining to religion, culture, sport, arts, education, and science, specifically for Zoroastrian teenagers and the youth in Iran. She's also a registered keynote speaker for the Council of Iranian Moobeds and was officially involved in spearheading the formal registration of the Iranian national celebrations of the Jashin-e-Meherangan and the Jashin-e-Sadeh at UNESCO, in collaboration with the official council from the Office of Cultural Heritage and Crafts in Iran. In 2012, under the esteemed leadership of Dr. Jahangiri, the Zoroastrian Young Professionals in Iran was formed, which was taken to the UNESCO. In 2013, Dr. Jahangiri was involved in developing the proposed educational methods for the consolidation of religious knowledge to strengthen the beliefs of our future generation in Iran. Dr. Jahangiri is also the author and editor of a 6-volume book titled Teaching of Avesta. This precious piece of work was prepared for the primary school students to teach them the alphabets and the literature in the Dine Dabire. It was also designed to help post-4th grade students to learn the correct pronunciations of this Avestan language and the teachings of the Avesta, as well as to understand the value of our Sadre and Kushti. She also loves to help organize the Gambars, the Sadre Poshi, Naljot ceremonies for our Zartoshti community in Iran. Dr. Jahangiri is also hailed for the authorship and publication of a 3-volume book titled Teaching Din-e-Dabire Alphabets, the Avestan alphabets, using advanced techniques. This book was published in 2015 by the Fravahar publishers. She also contributed her dedication in the collaboration for the recording of correct reading of Gatha for the Tehran Council of Zoroastrians. MoobedYaar Rashin Jahangiri has devoted her time in recording the 5 Gathas in accordance with the Avestan script and the production of a Gatha speaking pen. Ladies and gentlemen, this Gatha speaking pen is a new technical instrument which anyone can use to listen or learn the correct reading of Gathas based on Dine Dabire by just moving a technical smart pen on the surface of the Gatha page. It's a very difficult thing to learn the language. I've taught it to myself, so I really appreciate this. Dr. Jahangiri has been invited to serve as the judge for several national contests in reading and pronunciation of Avesta and Gatha, as well as in Gathic studies. Now, she also served as a religious consultant for the production of the movie Cedar Under Water, which focused on the war-deceased minorities of Iran, with special emphasis on the deceased Zoroastrians. In 2017, this movie was awarded by the Iran Cinema the Crystal Phoenix Award, which is the highest award for the best stage and dress design. MoobedYaar Dr. Rashin Jahangiri has also numerous professional publications and presentations to her credit. Some of them are the Ardha Visur Anahita and its Legend, the 7 Levels of Gathas, Literary Array in Gatha's First Half, Literary Arrays in the Meher Yasht, Fasting in Zoroastrianism, the Dynamics and Reliability of Traditions, Position of Tradition and its Role in Dynamics and Reliability of Zoroastrianism, Suggested Teaching Methods for Strengthening of Religious Knowledge towards Reinforcement of the Youth's Faith, History of Medicine and its Roots in Iran based on religious writings, and the role of religion in the trend towards spirituality and justice. And with that prestigious honor, I would first like to welcome this amazing lady who has dedicated her life towards honoring the spirit of Zarathustra, our very own MoobedYaar, Dr. Rashin, Jahangiri, from the heart of our motherland, Iran. And then I will welcome Dr. Manouchehr Hakhamaneshi. Dr. Hakhamaneshi is an engineer who has devoted his life both to his task of engineering and also to the study of the religion. Dr. and Professor Manouchehr Hakhamaneshi is the grandson of late Shahryar Khodayari, who has chaired the Zoroastrian Association of Yazd for 15 years. Mr. Khodayari helped significantly in resolving Zoroastrian social affairs during the time of their oppression in Yazd. He was also the son of late Mrs. Parveen Khodayari, who served as a teacher of the physically and mentally disabled students in Iran for more than 25 years and holds several publications and awards for her work towards advanced teaching methods for disabled students. Dr. Manouchehr Hakhamaneshi is a graduate of the University of California in Davis, from where he received his bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees. His PhD research focused on implementation of novel, innovative techniques for retrofit of existing buildings. He holds more than 10 journals and 25 conference articles and reports, and is a full-time engineer at the California Department of Transportation and a part-time adjunct professor at the California State University, East Bay. He's also a licensed professional engineer in California and in 35 other states. We are very grateful to him for providing scholastic translation of Dr. Rashin Jahangiri's special presentation from Iran. So please welcome him. Join me in giving him a big Zartushti round of applause. Thank you. Over to you for the presentation. Thank you, Yazdi.
شناخت اهورا مزدا به خوشنودی اهورا مزدا. ضمن سپاسگزاری از برگزار کنندگان سلسله نشست‌های دینی سراسری زرتشتیان، بر آن هستم تا در فرصت پیش آمده دریچه هرچند کوچک رو به رشادت‌ها و فداکاری‌های نیاکان زرتشتی بازمانده در ایران در دوران پس از ساسانی در راه حفظ ارزش‌های دینی، اخلاقی، اعتقادیشون باز کنم تا هرچه بیشتر به عمق و شدت و قدرت ایمان به باورهای راستین در وجود یک انسان پی ببریم.
Krishnautra Ahura Mazda, with special thanks to the organizers of the series of national religious meetings of Zoroastrians, I would like to seize the opportunity and open a small window to the bravery and sacrifices of the surviving Zoroastrian ancestors in post-Sassanid Iran, from the large group of Zoroastrians, all of which were towards the preservation of their religious belief and moral values in order to realize more about the depth, intensity, and the power of faith in the true beliefs in human beings.
یک زرتشتی مؤمن هر روز با سرایش اوستای سروشواژ پیش از گشودن کشتی از کمر قطعه از گاهان سروده های اشو زرتشت اسپنتمان رو چنین با خودش تکرار میکنه.
Every day, a devout Zoroastrian reciting the Avesta of Sorushvaj before opening the koshti from the waist repeats a piece from the Gathas composed by the Zoroaster Spantaman as follows.
زمانی که درگوند به آزار من کمر می‌بندد، چه کسی را ای خدای دانا جز آتش آترسشا و منش مننگ هستشای خود برای نگهداری من گمارده ای. از پرتو این دو فروزه روشنایی و دانایی است که آیین اشع به کار بسته می شود. ای پروردگار نهاد مرا از این آیین آگاه ساز. یسنا هات 46 بند 7.
When a wrongdoer attempts to mislead me, who else shall be my friend and my companion? Who else except my inner fire that blazes towards you and my thought that soars towards you? O Ahura, it is with recognition of doctrine of righteousness that we shall benefit from the radiance of your wisdom and gain strength.
این باور عمیق به ژرفهای چند هزار سال که از عمق قلب و اندیشه و زبان پیامبر جاری شد در جان و روان پیروانش سخت ریشه دواند. پیروان دانستند که آذر یا فروغ توانای مینوی اهورامزدا که ابدی و نیرومند و در پرتو راستی یا عشه همیشه فروزان هست نگهبان آنهاست و آنها هم پاسدار حریم و حرمت آتش گیتوی اند تا همین توجه و تعهد دو سویه هر بار اونها رو به آفریننده یکتا یعنی اهورامزدا نزدیکتر کنه.
This deep belief in the depths of several thousand years that flowed from the heart, mind, and words of Zoroaster took root in the souls of the followers. They knew that Azar, or the mighty light of Ahura Mazda's spirit, which is eternal and powerful and is shining in the light of truth, and the one that eternally guides followers with force and profound insight. From Yasna 34, verse 4. They knew that the light of truth is the follower's guardian and that they are the guardians of the sanctity of the fire of the universe, so that this mutual attention and commitment would bring them each time closer to our incomparable Creator.
اهمیت آتش در دین زرتشتی رو باید در پیوندی مینوی جست که میان اهورامزدا و آفریده مینوی او یعنی عشه برقرار هست. در گاتها هات 32 بند 2 میخوانیم که مزدا دوست خوب عشه فروغمند است. این که اشو زرتشت پیامبر اهورامزدا رو یگان سرچشمه راستی و یکتا آفریننده جهان بر پایه داد یا قانون عشه شناخت و به دیگران معرفی کرد، دادار یکتایی که به نشانه مینوی عشه در جهان گیتی جلوه مادی آفرید یعنی آتش پاک و روشن، آتش سرخ و سوزاننده پلشتی ها و به کمال ویژگی های مینوی عشه را در این آتش گیتوی مجسم کرد، به همه ما بهدینان آموزش می دهد که در راه پیوند انسان با آفریننده آتش و عشه واسط هستند و سزاوار توجه و بزرگداشت و ستایش.
The importance of fire in the Zoroastrian religion should be found in the spiritual connection that exists between Ahura Mazda and Ahura Mazda's spiritual creation, Asha. From Yasna 32 verse 2, Mazda is good friend of bright Asha. Zoroaster knew Ahura Mazda and introduced Ahura Mazda as the only source of truth and creator of the world based on the law of Asha, the only righteous who has a material manifestation in the universe and as a sign of Asha's spirit created the pure and bright fire, red and the burner of the indecent, and fully embodied the characteristics of Asha in it. This teaches us, believers, that in the way of human beings' connection with the Creator, fire and Asha are mediators and deserve attention, honor, and praise.
بنا ساختن آتشکده که سرای همنشینی آتش و 3 گوهر دیگر آفرینش یعنی هوا، خاک و آب همون 4 آخشیج هست، از زمان یک جانشینی و کشف آتش که گوهر توسعه دهنده و تمدن ساز بود اهمیت ویژه‌ای پیدا کرد تا همواره آتش فروزان یعنی همون چرخ گرداننده امورات خانه و حرفه و صنعت به نیکی نگهداری بشه و نگهبانی دائم یعنی همان هیربد اون رو بپاید. زمانی که محوریت پررنگ اجتماعی تمدنی آتش در زندگی بشر با باور دینی عمیق و الهی مردمان این سرزمین چون تار و پود در هم ادغام شد، آتش پرسته سو شد و آتشگاه سرایی ساده و مینوی برای ارتباط اندیشه و روان فرد بهدین با اهورا مزدا.
The construction of the fire temple, which is the companion house of fire and the other three gems of creation, namely air, soil, and water, or the four Akhshij, became especially important from the time of discovery of fire, which was the developing and civilization building gem. The luminous and bright fire, which played a primary role in the affairs of any household, profession, and industry, was therefore kept well maintained, and a permanent guardian or hirbod was constantly keeping an eye for it. When the strong social civilizational centrality of fire in human life was combined with the deep religious and divine beliefs of the people of this land, such as warp and weft, fire was worshipped, and fire temple became a humble and spiritual structure for the connection of thought and spirit with Ahura Mazda.
تاریخ بشری بارها نشان داده که همواره قدرت و حقانیت ایمان هست که مورد آزمون الهی قرار میگیره و ایمان راستین همواره سربلند و سرافراز از آزمونهای سخت بیرون میاد و تاریخ مردمان ایران هم از این امر مستثنا نیست.
Human history has shown many times over and over that it is always the power and legitimacy of faith that is tested by God. And true faith always comes out of such challenges proud. And the history of the Iranian people is no exception to that.
تاریخ ایران پس از ساسانیان که در نوشته‌های مورخین اسلامی اروپایی تا اندازه‌ای به تصویر کشیده شده، فراز و نشیب‌های بسیاری رو در مسیر پاسداری معتقدانه بهدینان از باور دینی عمیقشون نشون میده. سختی‌هایی که همون آزمون عمق ایمان بهدینان بود به حقایق اهورایی که هزارها از اون پاسداری کرده بودند. تاریخ میگه که استیلای مقدونیان و بعدها اعراب بر سرزمین ایران همچون دیگر کشورگشایی‌های اقوام غالب برای قوم مغلوب پیامدهایی داشته که مهمترین اونها هراس و ترس از دست دادن داشته‌های مادی و معنوی است که در نتیجه تغییرات جزئی در ساختار حاکمیت و نظرات منفردانه حکام وقت غیر قابل پیش بینی می‌نمود.
The history of Iran after the Sassanids, which is portrayed to some extent in the writings of Islamic and European historians, shows many ups and downs in the path of Zoroastrian belief in protection of their deep religious credence. These hardships were the true test of the depth of the believers' faith in the Ahura's truths that they guarded for thousands of years. History says that domination of the Macedonians and later the Arabs over the land of Iran, like other conquests by the dominant tribes, had consequences for the defeated people, the most important of which is the fear of losing belongings and spiritual resources, which in result changes in the governance structure and changes in the views of the rulers of the time made the situation very unpredictable.
نمونه آن را مری بویس در کتاب تاریخ کیش زرتشت اینطور بیان میکنه که قراردادهای صلح زیادی بین حکام مسلمان و زرتشتیان مبنی بر آزاد بودنشون در دین اجدادی و حراست از آتشکده‌ها در ازای پرداخت خراج‌های سالیانه بسته میشد، مثل قرارداد حاکم وقت با زرتشتیان آذربایجان بر سر آتشکده آذرگشسب در شیز. اما ضمانت اجرایی آنها به دلیل تغییر فرمانروا، عوامل حکومتی یا نظرات آنها متزلزل میشد. سیاست و روش فرمانداران اگر گرایش به میانه روی داشت، جامعه اقلیت اصولاً در امان بود و در غیر این صورت باید شاهد حوادث غیرمنتظره می بود.
An example of this is given by Mary Boyce in The History of Zoroastrianism, who states that many peace treaties were concluded between Muslim rulers and Zoroastrians on their freedom of ancestral religion and the protection of fire temples in exchange for annual tributes. An example of this is the ruling treaty of the time with the Zoroastrians of Azerbaijan over the fire temple of Azargoshasp in Shiz. But this treaty and ruler's guarantee were simply shaken by a change of ruler, government agents, or their views. If the policy and method of the governors tended to be moderate, the minority community would be in safety. Otherwise, they would have witnessed unexpected happenings.
نمونه آن معاهده صلحی هست که بین حاکم محلی سیستان یعنی ایران ابن رستم با فرمانده اعراب ربیع ابن زید بسته شد، در حالی که چندی بعد فرمانروای جدید سیستان چنین حکمی رو از موافق خودش یعنی زیاد ابن عبیه دریافت میکنه با این مضمون: چون به آنجا یعنی سیستان شوی، شاهپور مهیربدان را بکش و آتش گبرکان برافکن. که با مقاومت زرتشتیان و عریضه نویسی مسلمانان سیستان به خلیفه وقت جواب چنین اومد که چون زرتشتیان خداپرست هستند و اون آتشگاه در حقیقت معبد ایشان هست، مانند مسلمانان و یهودیان و مسیحیان که محراب و خانه خدا و کنشت کلیسا دارن، پس این حادثه قریب الوقوع متوقف بشه و اینطور شد که آتش کرکویه در سیستان تا چند سده بعد از اون با احترام در امنیت روشن بود.
An example of this is the peace treaty that was concluded between the local ruler of Sistan named Iran ibn Rustam and the Arab commander Rabi ibn Zayd, while a short time later the new ruler of Sistan received such a decree from his superior Ziyad ibn Abiyah as follows: as you travel to Sistan, kill Shahpur, their head of Hirbods and guardian of their fire, and destroy their absurd fire. With the resistance of Zoroastrians and the petition of the Muslims of Sistan to the Caliphate of the time, the answer was that because the Zoroastrians were God worshippers and that Darb-e-Mehr was their temple, like the Muslims and the Jews and the Christians who have their own house of God, temple or church, therefore the imminent attack should be stopped. And it so happened that the fire temple of Karkuye was kept lit with respect and security for several centuries after that.
اما در دوران حکمای بنی امیه این امنیت مخدوش و بسیاری از آتش‌های مقدس خاموش شدند و عبیدالله از روش پدرش یعنی زیاد ابن عبیه پیروی کرد و حکم به ویرانی آتشکده‌ها در سرتاسر ایران داد و تنها شرط برقرار ماندن هر آتشکده خراجی بود که از سوی بهدینان به حکام پرداخت میشد و به این ترتیب تعدادی از آتشکده‌ها با مشقت و دشواری بر پایه عشق و ایمان بهدینان استوار و روشن باقی ماند.
But during the time of ruling of the Bani Umayyads, the existing security and safety was distorted and many sacred fires were extinguished. And Abidullah followed the method of his father Ziyad ibn Abiyah and ordered the destruction of fire temples throughout Iran. The only condition for not destroying a fire temple was the treaties which were paid by the Zoroastrians to the rulers. And a number of fire temples remained lit, all because of the solid and steadfast love and faith of the believers.
در دوره‌های مانند حکومت عباسیان فشار بر زرتشتیان برای ترک دین اجدادی بیشتر شد که از فرستادن مبلغین تا خاموشی آتشکده ها و تغییر کاربری اونها به عبادتگاه مسلمانان گستردگی داشت. اما فروغ ایمان تاب مقاومت رو در بهدینان می‌افزود، مقاومتی که گواهی بود بر ژرف بودن ایمانشون به پیام اشر و زرتشت.
In periods such as Abbasid ruling, the pressure on the Zoroastrians to leave the ancestral religion increased. This pressure ranged from sending missionaries to extinguishing fire temples and changing their use to mosques for the Muslims to worship. But the light of faith increased the resistance of the believers, a resistance that testified to the depth of their faith in the message of Zoroaster.
اما از سده 13 به بعد این اندک روشنایی ایمان به دین باستانی و آداب و سنت‌های گذشتگان با تندباد حوادثی مانند یورش ترکان و مغولان بیشتر در خطر خاموشی قرار گرفت، به طوری که آتشکده آذرگشسب در شیز که طبق نوشته ابودلف سیاح مشهور مسلمان هنوز در قرن دهم روشن بود، پس از اومدن اقوام جدیدالورود اسیر خاموشی و ویرانی شد و کاخ ترکان بر آن بنا شد. وضعیت زرتشتیان سیستان و آتشکده کرکویه تا سده 13 هنوز مناسب بود، اما آنها هم از این یورش ها در امان نبودند و کوچ اجباری به مناطقی که کمتر اونها رو در معرض دید قرار میداد مثل مناطق کبیری یزد و کرمان آخرین چاره بهدینان بود.
But from the 13th century onwards, this dim light of faith in the ancient religion and the customs and traditions of the past was further threatened by the hurricane of events such as the invasion of the Turks and Mongols. An example is that the fire temple of Azargoshasp in Shiz, which was still lit in the 10th century after the arrival of the new tribes of Turks and Mongols, it was destructed, and instead of the fire temple, the Turkish palace was built on it. The situation of the Zoroastrians of Sistan and the fire temple of Karkuye was suitable until the 13th century, but they did not escape these attacks either, and were forced to migrate to areas that were less exposed, such as the desert areas of Yazd and Kerman, which became the last resort for believers.
در تاریخ نامعلوم موبدان فارس با دیگر موبدان و بهدینان همراه با تعدادی از نسخ خطی اوستا و 2 آتش از مقدس‌ترین آتش‌های فارس به روستای شریف آباد و ترک آباد در دورترین نقطه از یزد کوچ کردند و آتش‌ها را در بنایی کاملا ساده به طوری که هیچ نشانی از تمایز با دیگر بناها نداشته باشه در شریف آباد تخت نشین کردند و موبد هم در روستای مجاور مانند یک سرباز راستین ساکن شد و به مراقبت از آتش‌ها پرداخت و بهدینان هم با انجام آیین‌ها و پرداخت نذورات که صرف پرداخت هدایای ارزنده به مأموران میشد به حفظ این دژ که نماد ایمان و عشق اونها به اهورا مزدا بود یاری میرسوندند. بعدها میان زرتشتیان ساکن یزد و کرمان پیوند برقرار شد و با کوچ عده‌ای از بهدینان به هند و انتقال نسخ خطی اوستا پایگاهی خارج از متن اصلی این دین شکل گرفت که توانستند در دوره‌های پس از اون سودرسان و نجات بخش بهدینان بازمانده در سرزمین مادری یعنی ایران باشند.
In an unknown date, the head of Moobeds, alongside other Moobeds and Zoroastrians, carrying valuable manuscripts of the Avesta and also carrying 2 fires from the holiest fires of Persia, moved to the villages of Sharifabad and Turkabad, which are located in the furthest area of Yazd. The fires were placed in a very simple structure without any distinct sign in Sharifabad. And the head of Moobeds, just like a true soldier, moved and lived in a nearby village where he looked after these fires. To assist with protection of fires and the valuable manuscripts, Zoroastrians performed rituals and paid donations towards the Moobeds to preserve this fort. And this is a true symbol of faith and love of Ahura Mazda. Later, a connection was established between the Zoroastrians living in the desert of Yazd and Kerman. And with the migration of some of the Zoroastrians to India and the transfer of the Avesta manuscript, a base outside the main homeland of this religion was formed. This was very valuable, and the migrated Zoroastrians became saviors of surviving Zoroastrians in the motherland, ایران.
اما تاریخ همواره به عنوان ردپای کمرنگ از حوادث گذشته به انسانها درس‌های بزرگی میده. درس بزرگ تاریخ ایران پس از ساسانیان به همه ما اثبات حقانیت این دین اهورایی بود که با وجود چنین آزمون‌های دشوار الهی باز هم مؤمنانش سربلند و امیدوار و آزاده بر سر ایمان خیش استوار باقی موندند. باشد که آیندگان درس رشادت و ایمان رو به نیکی از گذشتگان خیش بیاموزند. ایدون.
But history always teaches great lessons to human beings as a faint trace of past events. The great lesson of the history of Iran after the Sassanids was to prove the legitimacy of this godly and Ahura'i religion, which despite such difficult divine tests, its believers are still proud and hopeful and steadfast on their faith. We hope that the future generations learn the lessons of courage and faith with kindness from their ancestors. Eidun.
Thank you very, very much for this most excellent explanation, MoobedYaar, Rashin, Jahangiri. And thank you very much, Dr. Manouchehr Hakhamaneshi, for giving us this translation so beautifully. In the Aatash it says, Rafedrai Vaurucheshani Doshi Moyavea Bifra Takshatre Ahura, Vangeu Shashish Panango Frospentar Mighty, Asha De Neao Fradakshaya. In that we ask the teachers to teach us, and they say, give us the knowledge to spread this to the people. And today we have had this knowledge and we are so grateful. Thank you very, very much. Beautiful. To bring together history, the role of the Mazdias who had migrated, the role of the fire outside, the role of the fire within. Marvelous, marvelous presentation. Thank you. Please, everybody, put your questions into the chat box from now so that Dr. Manouchehr Hakhamaneshi can translate and obtain the answers for us so that we can complete the program at the end with the question and answer session. In the meantime, we have two more wonderful presentations. The first is from Mahzarin Katrak. With immense joy and pride, ladies and gentlemen, the person I'm about to introduce to you is one of our Bahumata Young Youth and Fellowship ambassadors, who has passionately involved herself in promoting this program on social media platforms, and we are truly very grateful to her. She's an effervescent young lady with an immense zeal to unite our community at the local and the global level. Mahzarin Katrak is a student at the Monash University studying a dual degree in civil engineering and architecture. Presently, she's serving as the president at the Holman Hall Society of the Monash University in Victoria, Australia. She's originally from Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. Then Mahzarin moved to Melbourne, Australia in 2020 for her studies, and has familiarized herself with the Zoroastrian Association of Victoria.
She's saying something.
Mahzarin was featured alongside Sherazad Kapadia from the United Kingdom for an article about their Abu Dhabi Parsi group in the Parsi Times, as well as in Parsi Khabar, and we're very grateful to these journals for producing these articles for us to read and appreciate their work. This article was captioned and focused on bringing out university in diversity. So, correction, in unity in adversity. Her hobbies include baking and painting, and she has been a part of the well-known public speaking group called Toastmasters International in Abu Dhabi since 2019. Mahzarin is passionate about communal affairs, and her goal is to educate more people about Zoroastrianism and to bring awareness of our glorious history. She firmly believes that celebrating our ancestry and engaging with our youth associations are essential efforts to keep our flame alive, and alive now and for our future generations. With that spirited sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Zartushti welcome to this amazing young lady with a heart set to make a difference in our community. Our very own, passionate and compassionate Mahzarin Katrak, representing the United Arab Emirates today. And my gratitude to her wonderful parents too.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I am Mahzarin Katrak and I am currently in Melbourne, Australia. If you take a liter of water and distribute it equally between 10 people, each person will receive 100 milliliters of water. If you distribute it to 100 people, each person will receive 10 milliliters of water. The more people that want to share, the less water each one receives. As Zoroastrians, we consider fire, or the Aatash, as being sacred, and we treat it with respect by not blowing out candles and by nurturing our individual household fires. Growing up in Abu Dhabi, I was often put in the situation where I had to explain my religion and our values, such as good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. The next question would always be, so what do you pray to? As a child, I believed that that answer that would make the most sense would be fire. However, it was not until much later that I learned that we, in fact, are not fire worshippers, but instead we protect the fire. And the fire represents God's light or wisdom. Now, coming back to the analogy of the water distribution, but this time we distribute fire. If one person distributes the fire, it doesn't matter if it's 10 people or 100 people, or the entire population of 7 billion people. Each flame will have the same power and strength as the rest. So take a second to think about how the fire relates to Ahura Mazda's qualities. His love and light can be multiplied without compromise. There is a personal story that I'd like to share with everyone. When I was in school, I was not the brightest or the top of the class, but in grade 12, I was thrilled to receive an offer from one of my top choices of university to study a Bachelor of Architectural Design. It was a conditional offer where I had to receive a certain grade in order to be enrolled. However, when I received my grades, I was only 1 mark short of my conditional offer, leaving me stranded. I kept thinking, what did I do wrong? But I started looking for other options and praying to Ahura Mazda and not losing faith. I sent my grades back for remarking. And while waiting, I stumbled upon another university in Melbourne that offered the option of studying a dual degree of civil engineering and architecture. I applied immediately as there was nothing to lose, and I was waiting for my grades to return anyways. And to my surprise, my grades had increased by 2 marks, which meant that my initial conditional offer was back on track. And after a week of thinking about which offer to accept, I could not ignore the probability of being in this situation. I knew that this was a message from Ahura Mazda guiding me to a better path. 2 years later, I'm a student at Australia's top engineering university, studying a dual degree of civil engineering and architecture. If we close our eyes, we see darkness, but that does not change the light that is around us. When we see only darkness, we must not forget that Ahura Mazda's light is always around us. We just need to open our eyes. Thank you.
What an outstanding and excellent explanation given straight from your heart. Thank you very much, Mahzarin. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Really have enlightened us today.
Very well explained.
There, you have it. We'll now move on to our last presentation for the day, but please keep filling in the chat box. Mahzarin, you've received some credit from none other than Dina McIntyre herself. Our next speaker is Mr. Noshir Dadrawala. He's not just the supporter of Bahumata and has given me great strength, but has given strength to people around the world. He has explained texts in a way that I could understand from the age of about 6 or 7, and I still read his work today and still gain so much knowledge from it. So ladies and gentlemen, with immense honor, the person I'm about to introduce is an ardent student of our religion and a writer extraordinaire, who serves as an advisor to our Bahumata program and is also presently a sitting trustee of the Bombay Parsi Panchayat. He's an internationally sought expert on charity management. Regarded as India's #1 charity management expert, Noshir Dadrawala is the chief executive of the Mumbai-based Center for Advancement of Philanthropy, a company specializing in the areas of charity law, good governance practices for nonprofits, and corporate social responsibility, CSR compliance for companies. In the year 2008, he was appointed by the Planning Commission, the Government of India, as a member of the expert group on voluntary organizations in India. Please give me a moment.
What are you doing?
Please forgive me. I will continue in a moment. As an expert par excellence in the field of non-profit organization management, Noshir is the author of several books on non-profit law and management and also conducts seminars and workshops for non-profits across India. He's a visiting faculty member at the Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, the SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, and the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Mr. Dadrawala also serves as the trustee of the Forbes Marshall Foundation, the Everest Industries Foundation, the Bombay Community Trust, and the Bharatiya Samaj Seva Kendra. Previously, he has enjoyed research associations with the Harvard University, the London School of Economics, and the Johns Hopkins University. As a Zoroastrian faith scholar, Noshir leads informative trips of the Parsis to the Madare-Watan, Iran, which is extremely popular, and people have really been touched by these programs. As a community activist for over 3.5 decades, Noshir speaks, writes, informs on all community issues in a bold and candid manner. He has an abiding interest in the Zoroastrian religion and frequently lectures and writes on religious topics. And in addition to being the trustee of the Bombay Parsi Panchayat, he is also the trustee of numerous other religious and charitable trusts in India. With that sentiment of immense pride, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Zartoshti welcome to this man who has dedicated his life towards serving our local and our global Zartoshti community in numerous selfless capacities. Mr. Noshir Homi Dadrawala from India.
Thank you, Karishma. Thank you very much. And as the predecessor just said, it may be good morning for some of you, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Wherever your fellow Zartushtis, greetings to you. According to the Shenshai calendar, this is the holy month of Adar or Atar, which is dedicated to fire. Today also by the same Shahansai calendar happens to be Roj Behram of Bahram, which is the giver of victory. And I'm sure that this webinar that we are doing is the victory over the darkness of ignorance and the victory of light, of wisdom, the knowledge. I feel so overwhelmed with all that I've been hearing for the past 1 hour and 15 minutes from friends from the United States to Iran to Melbourne and somewhere sandwiched in between, I come from India. I mean, we have to thank technology that we are all so connected right now. Truly, we are global now. We may be about 100 of us on this webinar, but look at the connect. It's really overwhelming. And I just loved Mahzarin's example of that fire is not reduced by sharing. In like manner, knowledge is not reduced by sharing. Knowledge only grows. It only grows. And hats off, young lady. I mean, what a terrific example you have given of sharing religious wisdom. I'm impressed. I mean, usually we think that we elders have something to share. I've always believed that in my life, I think I've learned more from the younger generation than any other generation. So when I listen to people like Mahzarin, I think I find faith. I find hope. For anyone who thinks we are dwindling, we are dying out, sorry, I think we will only grow. And more power to your generation, Mahzarin. So we're taking much time, and I'm not going to really go deep into history or stuff like that, but fire plays a very pivotal role in Zoroastrian tradition. It is part of every Zoroastrian. Even if you're praying at home, you'll obviously try to have some fire in your house. It may be a diva, it may be some source of fire. So fire is an important component of any ritualistic life Zoroastrian. You find historically, if you will look at Persepolis, if you will look at Bisatun, 2,500 years ago, if you look at the images of Dariush the Great, if you look at Artaxerxes the Great, if you look at Xerxes the Great, you'll see all of them praying with their right hand uplifted in prayer, and they are praying before fire. They are praying before Atar. They are praying before Atash. And why are they praying before fire? Because I think the closer we come to understanding divinity is through the medium of fire. Fire, in a sense, is the embodiment of divinity. In all religious practice, you'll find that there are fires. The Hindu will probably worship through Agni. The Christian may light candles at their churches. And a Zoroastrian will look at fire as the embodiment of life. We all know that fire is a dispeller of darkness. It may be a completely dark room, and all you need is a small little candle light, and darkness just disappears. Because darkness to begin with does not even have existence of its own. Darkness is merely the absence of light. You bring in light and darkness goes away. In like manner, you bring knowledge and ignorance vanishes. And therefore, fire has to be looked at from this point of view. Fire is the dispel of darkness, darkness figuratively, symbolically, and free. And more importantly, fire is the giver of life. Fire is what animates everything. When we are dead, our body is cold. While we are alive, we have a temperature. Even when we are sick, you find that we have a temperature which is higher. That is the fire energies within you fighting the infection. You know, we are in the pandemic right now. And one of the symptoms that happens when you are hit by the virus is body runs a certain temperature. It probably goes above 36 degrees Celsius. And what does it mean? It means the fire energies are trying to fight an infection. So therefore, fire is a giver of life and it's a purifying force. So fire has to be looked at from that point, and therefore Zoroastrians do not worship fire, worship divinity through the medium of fire, which is the dispeller of darkness, the giver of life, and according to the Zoroastrian doctrine, which is the divinity that presides over fire. Of course, it is Adar or Atar, but as far as the Ameshas Menda is concerned, it is Ardibesht, or what Iranians call Ardibesht. What is Ardibesht? Asha Vahishta, best truth, the best righteousness. So Ardibesht presides over fire, and Ardibesht master healer. In fact, in the Zoroastrian tradition, one is ill, we pray the Ardibesht Yasht, and it's a healing prayer, and it heals. So when you light even a simple diva at your home, and you keep it in what the Zoroastrian tradition says, Gaiti or Datu, that means in its rightful place, in its lawful place, what are you doing? Think of it. Every morning when I do my diva at home, this is what runs through my mind. I'm lighting a diva. I'm dispelling darkness from my home, and my environment, and from my mind. I am bringing in it the light of Ahura Mazda into my home, into my mind, and my life. I'm lighting this diva which is going to bring life into my house and life-giving forces into my house, and it is bringing in the energies of Ardibesht into my house, which means I'm bringing good health into my house. When people say that right now we are hit by the pandemic, what is it that we can pray? Light this diva and think of Ardibesht. Ardibesht, the healer, the master healer. And who is Ardibesht? Ardibesht is the embodiment of Asha Vahishta, truth and righteousness. And therefore, in your home, light, life, and you're bringing truth and righteousness in your house. So, and if you can pray together, or you can pray in isolation on your own, I always believe a family that prays together stays together. Like manner, we started a program with praying together. Mohabed Sahib led us in a small Hammadagi of 3 Hashem. And what is this Hashem prayer? I will be righteous. I shall be righteous for the sake of righteousness. And this is what we are all affirming. Prayer all about. Prayer is simply attunement with the divine force. We say Yazmaide. Yazmaide means also worship. It means attunement and praise. But more importantly, we are saying that we are synchronizing our finite energy with the infinite energy of this universe and bringing that form of truth, strength, health, and life. So we are making these great affirmations every day. On waking up, the Hashem vow that we pray, it's a simple affirmation that I shall be righteous for the sake of righteousness, not for attaining heaven, not for attaining some kind of great heavenly life in future. It's the here and now. I shall do this because it is good. I am right because righteousness is good, and I shall be righteous for the sake of righteousness. And therefore, I will conclude only with this prayer that we pray. The most powerful part of the Aatash Niyayesh, straight from the Gathas itself. Usmai Uzareshwa Hura, Armaiti Taveshim Daswa, Spenishtam Enyo Mazda. And what does Kavaji Edelji Kanga, whose translations I follow, usually for the Avesta, what does it say by Usmai Uzareshwa Hura? O Ahura Mazda, the most beneficent spirit and bestower of good things in return for prayer. Look here, we are not worshipping fire. What are we saying over here? Uzareshwa Ahurama. So we are saying, oh, Ahura Mazda, true fire. We are worshipping only Ahura Mazda. Oh, Ahura Mazda, the most beneficent spirit and the bestower of good things in return for prayer. Do thou purify me. Keep me away from wicked deeds, and owing to my humility, do grant me the strength on account of my righteousness. Bestow upon me power, and on account of my good thoughts, grant me victory. How full is that? This is what you're praying before the fire. You're not praying, you're not worshiping fire. Through the medium for fire, as one poet once said, through nature to nature's God. We say through fire to fire's creator, or fire with which Ahura Mazda created this entire universe, and he spins the universe, the energy of that fire. Thank you very much.
Very well said.
Simply magnificent. Thank you very, very much, Noshir. Now we've got questions filling up in the chat box. Before we take the questions, let's look at the next slide, which Yazdi will show us, and give a little thought to all four speakers so we can synthesize the thoughts in our mind. So Moobed Behi talked about the fires outside and the fires within us. He spoke of the importance of the role of peoples through time to protect the fire and to protect the faith of different peoples. MoobedYaar Rashin took us both through the Gatha. She talked about how Yasna 34 verse 4 takes us closer to the Creator through fire. She talked about 32.4, the relationship between Mazda and Asha and the spiritual connection. She commented on the source of the truth, the creator of the world, working in line with Mazda. And then she related what Mary Boyce has taught us about the peace treaties. And this concept of truth and justice is very, very close to the heart of every Zartushti, because governance and structure allows society to progress. So we move from truth, represented by Asha Vahishta and the fire Spenista, through the good mind, Vahumana, fire Vahufriyana, through Kshatra Vairya, to Spenta Armaiti, to Hurvatat, leading to Ameratat, not just for ourselves, but for the whole world, progressing towards Ushta. So that we have intellectual value, emotional and social value, ecological and economic value, and social value. So thank you very much to all our speakers who have guided us on the concept of Atar, that energy, that which transforms into everything, but technically that which transforms. So not necessarily into, but maybe transforms us. So once again, to the Berize Savange Fire for sustaining us, and homage to Nairya Sangh for its guidance, and homage to all of you and the fires in all of you for making this possible today. So we shall start with our questions. And in the meantime, let us also ask Mahzarin Katrak, who has asked to speak. Mahzarin Sahib, if you could raise your hand, then Yazdi will unmute you. I recommend to everybody to read the chat box and see how much it has meant to everyone to hear the stories from all corners of the globe. So thank you, Meher Amal Saji, for doing this for us, putting all the speakers together. Rashin Jan, Moobed Rashin Jan, people would like to buy your pen. So Meher Amal Saji, could you please put the link to buy the pen if you have it into the chat box. Yes, Daraish Sahib.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you, Dr. Karishma Koka. Miracle child of your respected parents. I remember respected mother telling me once, Karishma, meaning miracle. Am I right?
Today's miracle is that we have so many people explaining the concept of the Aatash to us. Give us your opinion and question.
I will not be asking any question. As you mentioned in your announcement, that if from any audience, if someone wishes to share his experience about the help he got from our Matravani, that is Zatushi's prayer. I very well remember my friend Mr. Noshir Dadrawala also had the similar experience on one of his tour to Iran. Before that, I would like to express that in recent times, the emphasis is given more on Hum Bandagi, which simply stated it is the collective way of praying together. Why I'm saying that is, I will shortly come to why. When you pray alone, the vibrations are created. They are like tap water. But when you pray as a group, the vibrations created are like rain showers. Matravani is the soul of our Dada Ahura Mazda, and Sarosya's body is full of these mantras. I will quickly share my experience on one of my tours to Iran. I visited 3 times to Iran by way of invitation from private tour conductors for religious discourse and historical inputs. In one of my tours, I'm now sharing the experience of our powerful Matravani piece, and I will conclude in 2 minutes. While on my way from Tehran to Isfahan by aircraft, at the airport building, we all know that we have to pass through the scanners. I had kept my bag in the tray. Likewise, my 20 Hamdins also had kept it. To my surprise, when all the bags rolled out, there was one bag that did not. And that bag was of yours truly, Niyayesh Rustam Katrak. I was not at all nervous because I had full faith in my Matravani. Incidentally, today is Behram Roj. And on that day also, it was Behram Roj. Behram Yazard is a Pant Yazard associated with her. I performed the custody, came back near the security officer. I could see the tour conductor with the folded hands praying. I could see also my Hamdins collectively praying. That is what I call Hum Bandagi. Because I told them that y'all can proceed. I have no bag now, which had inside, my passport, my exchange, and my visa. But none of them were willing. If we go, we will go with our Dastujis because it was the 8th day of our tour. I did my custody and prayed to Behram Yazard that if I have done anything wrong, intentionally or unintentionally, please send me back to India. But I'm worried about these 20 Hamdins, that they will be affected more than me. To my surprise, the senior security officer called the junior security officer with a long, bamboo. Below the scanner, he did something and he brought my bag out. It was like Behram Yazard going inside and bringing the bag out. What a powerful Matravani. What a powerful Jasusi prayer in just one custody. And my Hamdins who did Hum Bandagi for me at the airport. This bag came out, we went running, got our boarding pass and caught the flight in a closure timeline and went to Isfahan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is proved at a couple of occasions. It is proved at a couple of occasions that our Matravani, our Jatushti prayers have faith. That is more important. Each and every word has got a divine power. Just like my friend Mr. Noshir Dadrawala said it a little while ago, it is so powerful that heals our illnesses. I would like to share in a minute what exactly happens, what promotes healing. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a research done by none other than Carl Peterson, a USA-born brain specialist. He conducted a study between the brain and praying. Our each and every word are so powerful. They are like, powerful sword at the edge. When it is pronounced, it triggers that part of the brain which secretes, chemical secretions that are directed to our immune system and boost it by 30 to 35%. Why in recent times? Because of pandemic situation, we are told continuously, improve your immune system, and we, by our Jatushti's prayers, must improve our immune system. Jasdan Panabad, Dejo Sadbar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mahzarin Katrak. Thank you very much for that explanation. We have a question now from Mr. Hushtas Bamgara. Please, would you ask your question yourself, sir? I think I might ask the question.
Louder.
Yes, may I? Ustasji says, okay, thank you. Thank you, Moobed Behi, for your talk. I have a question with regard to Yazad, Aatash, Behram. Are the traditional prayers and rituals offered to the fire in the boy ceremony? If not, why not? So this answer will enlighten us all.
Could you please a little bit elaborate on bowl ceremony?
The boy ceremony, which we do for the fire at the beginning of every day, 5 times a day.
Yep. Everything done. Yeah. There are moobeds in Yazd, especially Atash Behram. There are dedicated time to the Atash. So that's done. Yes.
It's done. And do we dedicate these prayers to the fire, or do we dedicate the prayers to Ahura Mazda and through the fire? Which way do we actually pray? What is supposed to be our understanding when we stand and we hear our Moobed Sahibs pray?
Sure. So the terminology is, I probably, you can expand on this one, or we can talk more. It's a kind of media. Fire is a media. So it's a way that we can connect through that one. So so that's the main thing. That's the main message. And it's a very interesting, like if you just try whatever, it's supposed to look at it. When the fire is burning, it gives you a very spiritual feeling. I mean, I always feel that. So it's a media, I would say.
Can I speak?
Absolutely. Mami would like to add something to this. Please
Sure,
go ahead.
definitely, please.
If you permit, yes. Thank
Definitely.
Shobad.
Thank you.
I would like to stress on the point that fire is energy. When you look at fire, you're looking at energy. Otherwise, you cannot look at energy.
Yep.
Fire is universal energy. There is fire in us, in our stomachs, in our heart, in our brain. Every part of our body lives with warmth. Without warmth, we would be dead. Fire is in the air. Without fire, we cannot breathe because fire gets us more oxygen. With oxygen, we can digest our food. Without oxygen, we cannot digest our food because it doesn't become oxyhemoglobin. And our blood becomes very weak. There are so many uses of fire. There is so much energy all around us. Each one of us is exuding the energy. That energy goes and mixes. It's like a bowl of sky, or even bigger than that. All the united energies together makes God. After all, who has seen God? Is there any God? Is there a human being who's called a God? Or is it a big horse who's a God? Or a big elephant who's a God? Or a huge tree who's a God? God is in everything. God is energy, which can be transformed. Supposing you have water and a glass. You have another cup. You fill that water in the cup, in the glass, in a vase. Wherever you fill it, it takes its shape. So also the energy. It can be transformed, but it cannot be destroyed. It changes its form and shape. That is all. And how will you see it? How will you represent it? How will you explain a child what energy is? From the youngest age, a child wants to know what energy is. Shakti, what is Shakti? What is power? What is energy? The only way to explain that is through the medium of fire. When you look at fire, you feel so spiritual. You feel there is some great power somewhere. And that power is God. When we all pray together, can you imagine the strength of that energy? Can you imagine the power of that energy? It is so, so strong. When you have a glass of water in front of you and you pray, even that water becomes very, very powerful. Then when we talk of fire, can you imagine all of us praying together? We can conquer anything on earth. Our earth is only a spot in the universe. It's nothing very great. But the power that we exude, the power that comes from us, the representation of the fire, the energies all together can defeat any enemy, firstly within us and outside of us. We need not fear anything. Once we have fire in us and fire around us, we have light, we have energy, we have power, we have soulfulness, we have that spirit to carry on in life. Very true. We have hope. And that is the greatest thing. Right now, with COVID going on all over the world, let us hope and pray and instill hope in everybody that you will recover if you fall sick. And you don't have to take medicines. The medicines are within you. You have that energy, that power. Pray in front of fire. Pray in front of light. And that light will give you the light. That light will give you the strength to heal yourself. Plants can give you energy. Fire can give you energy. Water can give you energy.
And the medicines that are there also can give.
And the natural medicines are there. Even allopathic medicines are made with natural medicines, natural elements. So let us all pray together. Like Dashaji said, Behi, isn't it? We all must pray together so that that power will light up all the energies around us.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karishma,
Amajo.
to make an additional comment, please.
Yes, please, sir. Thank you for your question and comment.
What I meant, thank you very much, Moobed Behi, for answering it. What I wish to say is, along with praying in front of the fire, one of the key things within Zoroastrianism, or being a Zarathustri, is the fact that our prayers, our scriptures state very clearly that our Mazda is not omnipotent. He's not all powerful.
True.
The fact remains that through prayer, through our deeds,
Exactly.
thoughts, words, and deeds, as the Yathavaryo says, we are offering our prayer to our Mazda for us to do good, and that good strengthens our Mazda. Presently, with COVID, it is only a temporary triumph of evil, Ariman, to infect the world. So prayer has a very big part to play in getting rid of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. In fact, MoobedYaar Rashin Jan referred to the Kemna Mazda, which has verse from the Gathas where she said, Atrascha manangascha yayao Niyayesh ashemtrauscha. So through good actions and a good mind and fire, we work towards righteousness. So spot on there, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a question, a comment, really from Jahangir Sarosh. Please, till you unmute, Jahangir Sarosh. Yazdi, Jahangir, please put your hand up so Yazdi can find you. We had a conversation between Jahangir Sarosh and Moobed Firuzgari some time ago. And I'll first let Jahangir speak. Jahangir, put your hand up, please. And then I will also give you what Moobed Firuzgari said to us. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just wanted to state what I have done in the message, and that is very simply that the light is what connects us to what is. And when one is connected to what is, one does what fits. As Dina McIntyre taught me, that what fits is the translation for Asha, i.e. responding to the moment, the need of the moment. And basically it's as simple as that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Noshir, any comment? You want to come in here? May I ask you?
Yeah, I think, as I said, that doctrinally we see Asha Vahishta, that is as presiding over fire, and therefore Ashishta has to be, Asha by itself has various components to it. It's about truth and righteousness, but it's also about divine order. Asha also embodies in it divine order, and therefore through this medium of fire, which is the energy giver, we also see that the entire creation that has been made by Ahura Mazda with the recitation of the Ahunavar is based on the principles of, which is, there is a certain law that everything happens its right time. I mean, you don't find planets and stars clashing against each other. Each is in its own, at its own pace, etc. Therefore, Asha is also about a great universal law. And one of the requirements of every human being is to stay attuned with this divine order and stay in sync with this divine order. And that's the only additional input I could give from my side.
Marvelous, marvelous. Talking about order, we've got Mahzarin Katrak with us, who wants to build. She not just builds communities, she wants to build for the future. Mahzarin, have you any thoughts straight from your heart on the concept of order, Asha, in building that lasts? Anything that comes to your mind?
So as a engineering student, there's always order in things. In maths problems, there's a certain way to do it as well. So I think that order, because engineering and physics especially is a study of the universe, study of the life and how things work. So I think that that translates into our religion as well, and that how we have order in different things, and how there is an order for all things on earth and in the universe. So yeah.
Beautifully
yeah.
said, Mahzarin. And
Thank
this
you.
is really important in today's world because we're so keen on the built environment being in consonance with the natural environment so that we can be in consonance with nature in a way that lasts. And in fact, the concept of natural destruction comes or links closely, some people say, to the way building can go against natural order and disturb the land, whether it's building or any other form of disruption. So thank you for your insight, because for the environment, order is critical, that we work with the natural asha.
Yes. And I feel that several engineers and architects, especially what I'm studying at the moment, is integrating different scenarios and different forms of life into our studies as well. So for example, right now I'm studying architecture in the sense where we pretend that half the population is blind. So you're always advancing on what nature produces, because although no matter how much we grow and evolve, people will still have disabilities, people will still have problems. So we are shaping what we can shape around what is already existing, rather than trying to create something new. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That fits in very well with also what Noshir referenced. He talked about the concept of yazamaide. Yazamaide being attunement, and also that we rever together towards Frashokerati. In the Zartushti Daina, it's never I pray. It's always we pray.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mahzarin.
Thank you.
If Dina McIntyre is here, Jahangir Sarosh referenced Dina, but till we find Dina, and if she's got something to say, I'm just going to do that. Till that time, I just want to read out a little something on what Dasturji Firozgari taught me. And that is, he says, with the definition of God being same as the law of Asha, in my opinion, hardly anyone has yet fathomed what God is in terms of creation. And this was a conversation we had with Jahangir, and something that he said, was he said that lack of energy or lack of light is darkness, which is something that Noshir also said.
Is that Rashin?
And so Dasturji Firozgari says, with respect to creation, energy and evil is simply the lack or blockage of this energy. The same as darkness is simply the blockage of light, or cold is the absence of heat. So just the lack or negative, but not something that is created as an entity, which is what Noshir also said. There's Dina. Anything to add or comment?
No, I think especially Mahzarin, I'm just awestruck. I love a lot of the stuff I've heard has been very instructive and very inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
May I have a comment, please?
Of course, please go ahead. Identify yourself so that Yazdi can then spotlight you if possible, if you'd like.
Yes, this is Pura Rostamian from Vancouver. First of all, I have to thank you for all of you, and thank you to all Moobeds. We are so proud of them, all well educated and then well said. All the presentation and information, it's so thankful, and thank you to you and your mother. And then I really appreciate how you interpret the energy in the body. It's so true. It's so true. And we know that our religion is very based on knowledge, physics, and science. And as you said, we can transfer it all to the rule of the physics. The energy never ends, always transfer from one form to the other. And it's so interesting that how well you said in each cell of our body, we have fire. As Dr. Ardeshir, he knows better than me because he is working on the molecular cells, but in each of our molecule, ATP transfer to ADP means fire and release energy. And that is the best well said in our religion. We are so proud that our religion is based on all science in the world, universe, all law in the universe practice is said in our religion. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Baba Meher, for bringing such wonderful speakers and the audience together today. Till another question comes up, we have another engineer here who has dedicated many, many hours of his time to translating MoobedYaar Rashin Jan's work. Dr. Hakhamaneshi, if you have a comment to make, please feel free to do so and give us your insight.
I just want to say it was my most pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Meher, very kindly. I really appreciate your invitation. It's very nice seeing all your faces and all your wisdom and all your kindness and support. I'm super grateful. MoobedYaar, Dr. Rashin, Jahangiri did all the work. I merely translated it, and it was my most pleasure. Thank you, everyone. God bless you.
On that note, if we may close, if there's nobody else who wants to say anything, we will just have a little thought, give everyone a little chance to come up with a question and hear the first verse of the Gathas in my mum's voice. And if you've got time now to put in any comments or any thoughts.
Ostano zato rafetraya maniush masa por mí spentleas ashaves shotnas vangelush kartum manango ya snevishangelusha orvanim.
We have a little comment from Mr. Sorab Shapurji saying, we are from the southern tip of Africa, a minuscule Zartoshti community, and we commend your team for hosting these meetings to enlighten us. Thank you for all the effort put in. So thank you to all the speakers. Thank you, Mr. Meher Amalsad. If anybody has anything to say, please do. Otherwise, Yazdi, please close after the Hambandagi from Moobed Sahib Behi. Behi Sahib, Moobed Behi, Ardeshir, please will you give us a Hambandagi?
Unmute.
I'm really sorry. I was talking to myself. Sorry. So as I mentioned, the most important part of these prayers is being together and recite it together. So please join me. This is a prayer that all of us know. So I would like to hear your voice as well. So if you would like to unmute yourself, so that would be very, I think.
You are on mute again. Unmute.
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay, so please join me. I started with the name of the God, Ahura, Mazda, and 3 Ashembos. And I would like to hear all of you. So please unmute yourself. So we are going to recite together. نام حرمت Autra Aure Masdao
Notra Bremasdao
Shemvahu Vaishtamasti Asti
Kamai
Ahmai Atashai Ashtau Yashem Shemvahu Vaishtamasti Ashtau Asti Ahmai Atashai Ashtau Yashem Shambhu Vaishtamasti Ashtau Asti Ashtau Atmai Atashai Ashtau Yashem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
May Ahura Mazda bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karishma. Excellent webinar.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Karishma, you're on mute.
We also have many esteemed people and teachers from around the world in the audience today. Thank you all for staying with us. Not sure if you have a comment to close us with.
Got one, I think they've got one. You said they got the.
Sorry?
If you have any comment to close,
No,
please do.
I think I'm just very grateful for the opportunity. It's a great opportunity for me to have learned today from some of my elders. And importantly, what inspires me today is hope. When I see our young generation who's so enthusiastic, who's so into the religion, I think if there is one message I carry back home today is of hope, that the Zoroastrian religion will not just survive, but it'll thrive thanks to young Zartushtis that we have in our midst.
Want to say something? Close.
There's one more point I'd like to bring out. People say that you can defile the fire. Fire can never be defiled. Fire is the destroyer of everything that is evil. Just a thinking point I've given you. Please think over it. You cannot destroy fire. Fire destroys everything. While fire gives life, fire also destroys everything. It cannot be polluted. It will not be defiled by anything, not even your imagination can destroy fire. It'll engulf everything. It'll swallow up everything.
That is by definition what we have. Aatash, Puthra,
Ahura,
Ahura, Mazda, that which purifies.
Pavitra kar o Mazda Ahura, Ushmoi uzare shwaura. It means purify me. O Atash, O fire, please purify me. That means burn all the evil inside me, all the greed, all the sorrow, all the unhappiness, all the diseases, whatever you think is evil, please destroy all that inside me, envy, jealousy, hatred.
And disease.
And
disease.
Disease,
So
yes.
with that, if we may please close YSD with a good thought for all those people suffering around the world with diseases, discomfort, our thoughts and prayers are with all of them. Thank you to our great speakers today. This has given us time to take down the website that Dr. Rashin Jan has put in, the website, the phone number. If I could draw your attention to that, where you can get the Gatha pen. Thank you all to our speakers. Thank you. Thank you, Yazdi Tantra, for the support. May we have the last slide, please, before we close. Bahumat is only possible because of all the great people who are in our team. And the last slide that you will be seeing now has the names of all those people and our wonderful fellowship ambassadors, the youth we have talked about today.
Louder.
Just give me a minute.
It's okay, I'll do it from here, Yesti. Done. So we have Mr. Meher Amal Saad, the mentor and facilitator. Mohammad Meherban Firuz Gurya, guiding light. Mohammad Soli P. Dastul, prayers for his health. Noshir Dadrawala, Mr. Tantra, Ervad Kobad Zarolia, Ervad Brigadier Behram Pantaki, Mr. Arzan Sam Wadia, Mr. Petrus Bevaina, Dr. Mickey Mehta and Ms. Tina Mistry for the initial support, and our wonderful young fellowship ambassadors Yazid Unwala, Ervad Jehan Kotwal, Ervad Xerxes Bandara, Tina's Karbhari, Benaz Nanavati, thank you for putting things on social media, Mahzarin Katrak, our speaker and our help on social media, and Leah Contractor from Pakistan. At this point, thank you to all those people who help us to share the message of Asho Zarathustra. This is key. Parsi Khabar, Zoroastrians.net, Parsi Times, Worldwide Zoroastrians, Ms. Persis Zach, who has helped us share the message on Worldwide Zoroastrians. Thank you all to all the associations who share these emails around the world so that we can share the message, the spirit of Asho Zarathustra. Bye-bye, take care, have a wonderful month. See you in a month's time. God bless.